All right, guys, it is time to take a look at and react to all the PFF grades from that very boring, abysmal preseason week 2 game, Packers versus the Denver Broncos, where the offense didn't score a single point. Very excited to take a look at these PFF grades. I've yet to look at them myself, so I'm actually wondering who could actually grade high in this game. So again, very interested to take a look at these. We go over PFF grades after every single game for the Green Bay Packers. If that does interest you, go down and click subscribe for everything Green Bay Packers here on this channel. This video is also being powered by BetUS. More on that later. The Green Bay Packers also do practice today. It's usually at 10:30 Central. But it got moved to 2:30 Central, so there will also be a practice video after this one today here on this channel. We only have 2 more open practices, the one today, and then Thursday, the joint practice with the Ravens ahead of their 3rd and final preseason game this Saturday. All right, so without further ado, let's dive right into these PFF grades and waste no more time bringing up the screen. We're just going to get it out of the way. We're just going to start on offense and just see how these grades are. So bringing up the screen, the one player I thought that would be near the top would be Malik Heath, and we do see he is the 2nd highest graded player, and actually the highest graded player with at least 20 snaps. We see he had 37 total snaps, and he graded pretty well. The fact that there's not a single player over a 70.0, I mean, that just makes sense. After watching this game, there was nothing on the offense that made you go, wow, that player had a 70-plus grade. I mean, honestly, I don't know if there was a single one. Maybe someone on the offensive line, but as you see here, the highest graded player was someone on the offensive line, and it was Luke Tenuta. And I didn't know how Luke Tenuta played because, you're not watching the offensive line every single play, but I guess if you don't know how an offensive lineman played, that's usually a good sign. If you don't notice them a bunch, that's usually a good sign that they didn't get beat a bunch. So that was the case with Luke Tenuta. Played right tackle, 17 snaps, a 69.6, good pass blocking grade, and about above average run blocking grade. We'll also go over the pressures right after we see all these total grades. So Malik Heath, a 69.3. Samori Toure, actually the 3rd highest graded player on the offense in this game, but still only a 64.5. So average on PFF is 60. So we really only have a few average players and above average players in this game, which makes a ton of sense. And a lot of them are offensive linemen, which I guess if you look at it from the grand scheme of things, the offensive line did better than anyone else on the offense, right? Quarterbacks didn't do good. The running backs didn't do too hot. I mean, Emmanuel Wilson did run hard, but didn't have a great average. The receivers didn't do too well because the quarterbacks didn't do well. So we're going to have a lot of linemen on the top here. Caleb Jones, a 64.2. I thought Caleb Jones and Travis Glover actually, didn't play too well. But again, I'm not watching every snap of the linemen. You see a couple plays where they get blown up and you're like, oh, that guy had a bad game. But in terms of PFF grade, they both pass blocked pretty well. Caleb Jones an 82.9, Travis Glover a 71.0. Run blocking not great for the both of them. Both below average, and they still had an above average grade. A lot of snaps for Travis Glover, 48, where Caleb Jones only saw 17. Ben Sims, also a decent grade. We're getting, again, into the average mark here, a 62.8, not good pass blocking there. Kadeem Telfort, 39 snaps. There's all a decent amount of snaps here. The Packers trying to figure out who's going to remain on this roster, on this offensive line. You have Telfort, Glover, Tenuta, Jones, all of which can play tackle. You're kind of wondering which one is going to be the 4th guy if they do keep Andre Dillard. So Telfort, a 61.8. Messiah Swinson, a 61.7. Lecitus Smith, 60.9. Sean Ryan, a 60.7. Actually saw 29 snaps. I thought he saw a lot less snaps than this, but I guess he made the move to center at a certain point because it seems like he played majority at center, so that's interesting. Something interesting to note there. Bo Melton, a 60.2, so the 3rd highest ranked receiver here. Still want to see more out of Bo Melton this preseason. He's been good in camp, but his worst performance was week 1 preseason against the Browns. Didn't do anything crazy last week, but again, the quarterbacks weren't really throwing the ball too well, so I can't blame him too much. Andre Dillard saw 14 snaps. Again, a great pass blocking grade. Last week, I believe he had like an 88 pass blocking grade. Last week, he didn't allow a pressure. I don't know if he did in this game either. Only in 14 snaps, but he's actually been pretty impressive at left tackle during these preseason games. In camp at right tackle, he's been abysmal. But maybe, his position is left tackle, and that's not a problem to have, right? Having a depth left tackle on the team. Emmanuel Wilson, a 56.3. Jalen Wayne, a 55.6. Ellis Merriweather, a 55.1 with a 5.1 pass block. So not good pass protection for Ellis Merriweather. Hicks, Stanley, both around 55. Royce Newman at 54. I mean, he saw 59 snaps. I think Royce Newman played every single snap on offense. So what that tells me is the Packers are giving Royce Newman every opportunity to say, hey, keep me on this roster. If they're playing him more than someone like Travis Glover, that says a lot. It means they don't know what they're going to do with Royce Newman, which is concerning to me because I think it's an easy answer. You just cut Royce Newman, and he's not on the 53. I think that'll still happen. I actually do think this is the time they cut Royce Newman. You guys know we talk about him a lot on this channel, and I always see comments laughing about how I'm always roasting Royce Newman, but rightfully so, man. I mean, he consistently has a poor performance, even in preseason game against third stringers. I mean, the guy literally played against third stringers in the fourth quarter and still had a 54.7. It's concerning. Jacob Monk was the one player I thought on this offensive line that performed well, but actually had a lower grade than Royce Newman, lower pass blocking, and just slightly higher run blocking. I guess PFF saw it slightly differently, but again, they're also rewatching the game, watching every snap from these linemen, where my instant reaction is just from the first watch, where you're not watching the linemen too much. I thought he played well at right guard and center. PFF has otherwise. Michael Pratt was the highest graded quarterback at 53.2. That checks out. Joel Wilson, 48.7. Nate McCrary, 41.7. Man, we get into the bad ones down here. Grant DeBose, what a complete 180 from last week. 38.4. Saw 37 snaps and a 38.4 due to the drops. I mean, I think he had 2 drops, so it makes sense. Sean Clifford, a 35.5. Man, what an upsetting performance by these quarterbacks. Tyler Davis, a 33.9. This checks out. I remember seeing a couple clips after this game that Tyler Davis missed like 3 to 4 blocks in this game, also had a penalty. He's been good in camp where you see him making blocks, but in this game, his first return to action, you know, it makes sense. His first return to action from his torn ACL in like a live game setting, but he was not good. But back to the quarterbacks, man, just upsetting. And I know a lot of people, want to bring in a veteran, and I understand that. And, I wouldn't be opposed to it. But again, the Packers draft quarterbacks to develop them. So it's likely still going to be one of these guys. It's either going to be Sean Clifford or Michael Pratt, probably as quarterback number 2. I think week 3 will give us a big telltale sign. It all comes down to this week for both of these quarterbacks, in my opinion. So now taking a look at pressures allowed from this offensive line. Again, not a single lineman, running back, tight end gave up a sack. So yeah, you probably could say that the line was the best performing unit on this offense, but they didn't have much competition to go against in terms of being the best performing unit. Kadeem Telfort allowed 2 pressures. Travis Glover, Royce Newman both allowed 2 pressures as well. Sean Ryan, Lecitus Smith, and Jacob Monk each allowed a pressure, and we see Lecitus Smith, the only lineman with a penalty here. So now let's flip over to the defensive side, going over the defensive PFF grades, and hopefully they're slightly a bit better. But before we do so, I want to give a massive shout out to today's video sponsor, BetUS, where you can get a 125% deposit match on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000 with my link down below in the description. It'll also be down pinned in the comments. Make sure to take advantage of this awesome offer. With the NFL season right around the corner, it's a good time to make your season bets. What I mean by that is choosing players' stat lines for the 2024 season. And the one we're looking at today is over under Jayden Reed receiving yard. The line right now on BetUS is at 775.5 receiving yards. Reed had 793 receiving yards in his rookie season last year, and I think he definitely will improve on that. I think Jayden Reed is only going to get better. So this is an easy bet for me. Easy enough that I'm going to go ahead and place a $100 bet down on Jayden Reed over 775.5 receiving yards to win a potential of $87. So I'm going to go ahead and place that bet. You guys can tail my bet or take a look at all the other lines that BetUS has to offer. I mean, you can do passing yards, interceptions, offensive rookie of the year, defensive rookie of the year, MVP, defensive player of the year, coach of the year. There's so many different lines, and that's all before week 1. So of course, then we have player props going into each game and whatnot. There's a ton of different options on BetUS. Go down, click the link in the description, get a 125% deposit match on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. Again, thank you to BetUS for sponsoring this video. All right, so now flipping over to the defensive grades via PFF, and wow, we have a decent amount of grades above 70, whereas on the offense, we didn't have a single player above 70. Here we have 8 total players with a 70 plus grade. And at the very top is Benny Sapp III, a player that likely not making the 53, but making his case here and, could end up being a practice squad safety. Just really showcasing the actual amount of depth this safety room has on this defense. Now, he only saw 14 snaps, so a small sample size, and that also tells me that, the Packers probably not going to keep him on their 53. I think there's a higher chance of someone like Zane Anderson making it due to special teams, but he had a good game. Out of a defense that let up a lot of points in this game, he had a pretty good game. 85.9, good tackle grade, good coverage grade, made 2 tackles. Chris Russell Jr., the linebacker they just signed, only saw 6 snaps. So again, even a smaller sample size here, 80.4. Christian Welch, this was the one player that I was very impressed with in this game. And in terms of players that had significant snaps, he was the highest graded player, and that checks out. This is what I thought it would be, a 75.1. He made 3 tackles, 3 stops, only allowed 1 reception for 5 yards. He was kind of all over the field, and again, making his case that, hey, keep 6 inside linebackers, because if you do, I'm going to be that 6th guy. Interested to see if the Packers end up doing that. I'm not sure they will. I guess it really depends on the recovery of Edgerrin Cooper. If that guy has to start on IR, yeah, they're going to keep Christian Welch. Not exactly sure, but 75.1, good run defense, good tackle grade, and above average coverage grade. Colby Wooden, a 72.8. I saw a couple plays that I was very impressed with Colby Wooden. He also had 2 pressures, a 72.8. Jonathan Ford, 72.6. This guy continues to impress as a rotational nose tackle behind TJ Slayton. He saw a ton of snaps and performed well in this game. Aaron Mosby, another guy that just continues to impress. He had a pressure, I believe was the pressure on that interception where the ball hit the back of a lineman's helmet, bounced up where Christian Welch had the interception. Aaron Mosby has been like an underrated underdog type of player right now. Fighting for a roster spot. Corey Ballantyne, 70.3. Didn't notice him much in this game. And again, that's a good thing for cornerbacks, and that's likely why he's the highest graded cornerback. Right above Jamon Green, who also played well in this game with a 70.0. Evan Williams, again, near the top. We saw last week he was one of the highest graded defenders. And again, same thing here. Played really well in this preseason game, even though the defense let up a lot of points. He only saw 20 snaps. I mean, I'm very impressed with Evan Williams. I think at this point, he's going to see a significant amount of snaps on the starting defense this season with Javon Bullard and Xavier McKinney. There's going to be a lot of rotation there. 69.1. He made 1 tackle. Brevin Allen had a pressure and a sack, a 68.3. Robert Rochelle, 67.4. Kenneth Odumegwu only saw 5 snaps, kind of showcasing that probably not going to make the roster. I mean, they're giving a lot more snaps to other guys, where Kenneth Odumegwu, fighting for a roster spot, only saw 5 snaps. Brenton Cox Jr., 65.5, had 5 pressures and a sack. Man, this guy's been tearing it up this preseason. To me, he's making the roster. He will make the 53-man roster. Javon Bullard, a 65.3, does have a poor tackle grade because he missed 1 tackle. That tends to happen with PFF. You miss a tackle, your grade gets tanked. But overall, an above-average grade, 65.3, only played in 8 snaps. So when you look at the snap difference between him and Evan Williams saw 20, Javon Bullard saw 8. That kind of tells me that, hey, Javon Bullard's the first guy up in that room, opposite Xavier McKinney. The less snaps usually means that this guy is above someone else on the depth chart, outside of someone like Kenneth Odumegwu, of course. But Javon Bullard, seemingly the opening day starter next to Xavier McKinney. Deslin Alexander, 64.7. Zane Anderson saw 28 snaps, 64.5. Anthony Johnson Jr. saw 26 snaps and had a really nice tackle grade, 79.5. Really good to see there because he usually misses a couple tackles. Kingsley Enagbare had 3 pressures. Carl Brooks had a pressure. Tyron Hopper, this kind of checks out. An inconsistent grade, like slightly below average due to the coverage, and you see why. I mean, 50.9 coverage grade, but run defense, 70.4. And this is exactly how I saw the game for Tyron Hopper. If you watch my instant reactions, I basically said, against the run, he looked great. I liked what I saw from Tyron Hopper, but he was lost out there in coverage, and it makes sense. He allowed 5 receptions on 5 targets for 44 yards, but he made 4 stops, including 8 tackles with only 1 miss. So against the run, Tyron Hopper, very, very impressive. Eric Wilson only saw 20 snaps, a 58.0. Katana Ladapo in his first game getting some defensive snaps. I was very impressed with him, and I even saw some clips of all 22 tape from him, and I'm still impressed with him from this game. They're playing him near the line of scrimmage as like a sub-linebacker box type of safety, and he made a really nice play on an inside run. Low grade here from PFF due to the missed tackle because a 29.5 tackle grade. Coverage, I'm not too worried about. Again, he was near the line of scrimmage a lot. Interesting enough that he has a 55.1 run defense, and obviously I'm a little biased. I love Katana Oladapo, and I think this guy's going to be great, but I don't agree with the 55.1. The couple snaps I saw from him in all 22, I mean, I thought he made great plays on the ball carrier. He had 3 tackles and 1 stop, so not really sure why the extreme low grade here. I liked what I saw from Oladapo in this game. Spencer Weege, 52.5. Lucas Van Ness, when you first watched this game and you saw him get a pressure, and you're like, wow, Lucas Van Ness, is doing pretty well this game. But then you go back and watch a lot of the other snaps. He's kind of getting stonewalled a lot of the time. And he doesn't really have too many pass rush moves in his repertoire to get by some of these tackles, and he needs to have that. There's times where he does have a great rep, and you see it. But then there's other times where he's completely erased from the play. So definitely something to have to clean up there, and I understand why he has a low grade here of 51.8. Christian Young, 51.0. Kalen King, 47.2. That checks out. I mean, this guy missed, it says 2 tackles. I thought he missed 3 or 4. Zach Morton, 47.0. Raylan Goforth, 32.9. This checks out. I mean, this guy's just getting abused in both preseason games and getting trucked by Jarrett Stidham all at once. It's crazy. LJ Davis, also, I saw him targeted a couple times, just completely lost out there, 28.8. So those are the grades. We have some really low ones here, but we do have some high ones compared to the offense where there's like no one above 70 and a lot of low grades. You would say the defense did better than the offense in this game. But yeah, those are all the PFF grades we have from week 2 of Green Bay Packers preseason. Hoping week 3 is a lot better and we start to actually get an idea of certain position groups of, okay, those guys are going to make the roster, those guys aren't, and kind of be comfortable making our final 53-man roster prediction, which will come out after this final preseason game, of course, before cutdown day. Reminder to go down in the description, check out BetUS to claim your bonus, 125% on your first 3 deposits, up to $2,000 there on BetUS, link down in the description. But I'll catch you all in the next one. Thanks for watching, and as always, go Pack Go.